So, you want to bag your Subaru Legacy. Hello and welcome back to Fitment TV. I am your host, Julio Neri, and today we have a Subaru Legacy. So we've actually bagged a handful of Subarus. We've bagged a BRZ, we've bagged a WRX, we've even bagged an STI, and now we have a Legacy. So this is actually a station wagon, or a wagon as you would say. So it's a family car, but the owner of this car actually, this is his baby. So gusto niya talagang pormado yung kotse, gusto niyang maganda yung tindig ng auto kapag napapark. Actually tune tong kotse, napakasarap niya i-drive. So when I picked this car up actually from the client, it felt pretty stiff, matagtag siya. Now I don't know if Subarus actually ride like that from casa, but it was in dire need of some suspension work, regardless if it was bags or not. Medyo sporty yung ride niya for a family car. This So You Want to Bag Your Catalog video is actually also a product highlight of what? Not just our air suspension, but of course our own line of Airstruts. So if you haven't seen it yet, or if you've forgotten already, we have our own Airstruts line called FEINT. These Airstruts are very, how do you say this? Very convenient. Not just for us, but also for you, our clients. Kasi kung alam nyo dati kung paano kami magpa-air suspension ng auto, it's either we convert stock suspension or coilovers to adapt to air springs. But now with Airstruts, it's an all-in-one package of basically a coilover with a coil spring already, all in one. And it makes it convenient for you and for us to convert your car to air suspension easily, so that we can do it as fast as possible and you guys can get your cars back as soon as it can possibly be released. Like I said, this has FEINT. A quick FEINT trivia: our Airstruts actually have 36 clicks dampening. You basically have maximum adjustability with height, dampening. Technically, you can adjust your preload with just adding air into the bag. It's more of a convenient coilover, if you'd say. You can also adjust your spring weight. Air suspension is really evolving now in terms of the type of bags used. Of course, systems. The systems always upgrade and update throughout the years. Like us, we are already producing Gen 5 as we speak, and we are getting it ready for release, hopefully as soon as we can. So before this intro gets any longer, please don't forget to subscribe to Fitment TV. We are now at 21,000 subscribers, and thank you to every single one of you out there that's watching. Please lend me your ears. This will get educational. So yeah, let's dive into the suspension and the under chassis part. Okay, so we're here at the front suspension of the Subaru Legacy. So first things first, product highlight, FEINT air strut. For the front suspension of the Subaru Legacy, this is actually a McPherson type strut. As you can see, our FEINT air struts come with steel braided hose lines. Now that is very nice. And of course, we follow the stock brake lines. It goes into the chassis right here at the back and then goes inside into the car to our layout, which we will show later towards the layout section of the video. For the front, it's pretty bare. It's a McPherson type strut. There's nothing much happening. There's very minimal linkages rather, that's happening here in the front. There's actually a lot of clearance here. As you can see, I can fit my whole hand behind the bag in the shock tower. So that is actually a lot of room and clearance to safely say that this bag will not hit anything on the car. It's on FEINT air struts. That's the biggest thing I can say. It made this procedure really easy for us and the boys. There is no design actually to do here because this is already built for the car. So whatever the Subaru Legacy's clearance is, whatever things we have to avoid, for whatever car whatsoever, this is a major upside for getting FEINT air struts, because designing, we don't really have to do any designing. We don't have to check clearances that much anymore because it's built for the car. As you can see, like I showed you a while ago,
clearance here for the bag. Now, this is something that we always look out for and make sure that it is far from any sort of sharp object or anything that it can grind on, especially that this is a McPherson type strut. This whole thing rotates. So if this was close to the shock tower over here, it could rub eventually, given the steering angle, since this does rotate, and that can rub on the bag and eventually puncture it. But as you can see on this side, that's a decent amount of clearance. For here, we're roughly at like 2.5 inches away from the shock tower. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the front suspension. Now let's move to the back, where we can see how our air struts look in the rear. So here at the rear section, usually I would assume that these are divorce setups, but I'm surprised that this is actually a all-in-one shock and spring for the rear. So for the rear, I will say it right away, this is a semi-slim bag on our FEINT air strut. That is our branding, that is our sticker, our own line of air struts. So for the rear, we did not use steel braided lines. Our steel braided lines are usually for the front. That's what comes with the package, mainly because of heat. So for our hose lines, we just followed the usual brake lines, and it goes up into the chassis over here, as you can see. And I'm sure this is a wishbone suspension for the rear. So we have an upper ball joint here. Yeah, it's a wishbone. It's just a single ball joint. We have a tow arm, camber arm, and clearance for the bag. As you can see, like I said, this is a semi-slim bag. And reason why is there's not that much room here. As you can see, I can barely fit my hand through this side over here. For this side, there is actually what I assume is an ABS line, and it actually sits pretty close to the bag, like slightly over an inch away from the bag. That's pretty much it for the rear. It's a wishbone suspension. We are using a semi-slim bag for the rear. Design is pretty simple, pretty straightforward. This is the beauty of FEINT air struts. We reduce time converting your suspension, your stock suspension or coilovers to adapt to air springs. At the same time, we don't have to bring out every single bag that we sell to check what fits the clearances of the shock towers for the front and the rear. And it's literally plug and play. The only thing that we have to do, or the only thing that's left to do, is the system and the layout, which actually we will get to after this section. But yeah, if you're interested in FEINT air struts, if you're curious what they are, if you're curious what they can do, feel free to message us on our social media platforms, on Facebook, Fitment Engineering, and on Instagram, Fitment TV. We will gladly assist you and answer your questions. So that's pretty much it for our suspension part of the video, and now let's go to the layout and see what is new up there. So we're here at the rear section of the car, and this is our layout. As you can see, there's nothing here. Just kidding, it's under here. So first things first, luckily there was no spare tire here, which made things easier. Since this is our basic layout, we have a single pump, we have a 3-gallon tank, and of course our Fitment Engineering airlift system, or FEELS. And since this car did not have a spare tire, like I said, it made things easier. So there were no hurdles in the way per se, or obstructions rather, that prevented us from having a system all in one near to each other. Because usually a lot of our clients that have spare tires opt to keep it, which doesn't make it difficult to decide on the layout. It just lengthens the time on finding where to place the pump, where can I put the tank, the system. Do you want to see it? Do you want to hide it? Will we keep it under a panel? Should we punch a hole through the panel? And then it gets messy eventually because we start punching holes through clean panels. Well, of course, that is supervised by our client because they allow. Just a quick rundown of how having no spare tire makes this part of building a car easier. Now, like I said, this is a basic layout. So we have our single pump, we have our 3-gallon powder-coated tank, and our Fitment Engineering airlift system, or like I said, fuels. Luckily, this is actually hidden like this by the spare cover, because we get to hide a lot of wires and hoses, as you can see over here. That gets hidden, and of course, if this was exposed, we would do our best to keep it organized, keep it clean, hide as much as we can. So this is one downside actually of having a tank on the floor of the car compared to having an exo mount, is because hose lines are seen everywhere. Unlike having an exo mount, it's really easy to hide and pass through the ceiling or roof of wherever the layout goes. So that's pretty much it for the system layout. So let's go back to the front of the car, where we can talk about its dynamics. Is the Subaru Legacy a good stance car? And our overall thoughts and opinions of the FEINT Airstruts on the Legacy. So see you there.
Now that we have the car running, let me open the app real quick so we can play around with the car and I can show you its dynamics, how far it goes up, how low it goes, as you can see. And of course, we can go play with the car and go up and down. So right now, we are aired out, and let's go all the way up. So what our client wanted for this Legacy was actually maximum comfort, and we did our best. We did suspension tuning. Now, if you didn't know, the height of the car, or what we call the baso adjustment, so tulad ng mga coilovers, same lang sila ng adjustment in terms of the actual strut itself. Meron niyang baso na linalagyan ng strut. So that is where you adjust the height mechanically. That is where you adjust the height mechanically, so you can bring the strut up or down. Usually what we do is we max out the drop of the car so that we somewhat get a good preload for the suspension, which actually helps with comfort and making sure that your ride is good. Pero for this car, it was kind of like a struggle. We had to find a good medium of height. So it's not all the way down or all the way down to the cup of the strut. And we're sitting around like 30 mm, 40 mm up from the cup. So like I said, this is full air up. For the rear, we have a 4-finger gap, maybe a 4.5. So this should be pretty high enough to get through Manila roads, some here in the Philippines. For the front naman, we're at a tight 3-finger gap. So don't forget, one finger is roughly 15 millimeters, so this is 45 millimeters. So if this is 3, the rear was 4.5-ish. Okay. So as you can see naman, we made sure that the cups of the struts were properly adjusted and leveled with the running board. So as you can see, if you look at the side skirt, actually, it lays pretty flat. Hindi siya nakatingala, hindi siya nakanguso, and it's just flat. So this is max air. For P1, quick little trivia, we have 3 presets. We have preset 1, preset 2, and preset 3. And like what we tell our clients all the time, P1 is always for what we call super patag. So if you're on the expressway and you're just going straight with minor lane changing, you can run on P1. So this is P1, no finger gaps. Maybe just one tight finger gap at the rear. That's 15 mm for the rear at P1. For the front, barely a finger, so I can't even consider that a finger gap. So that's pretty much 15 mm for the front, 15 mm for the rear. At P2, we should be at 2 fingers for the rear. A tight 2 fingers, so that's 30 mm for the rear. And then for the front, it's like a loose 1. So still pretty good. As you can see, skirt, running board still flat and parallel to the ground. At P3, this is how we look. We are at a 2-finger gap for the front, so that's 30 mm. For the rear, we should be at 3. As you can see, we're at 3, that's 45 mm. Take a look again at the skirt and the running board, it's parallel with the ground. So from P3, let's see how big the difference actually is from P3 and Max Air up. So it's not that much actually. But it's still a significant amount to get through Manila roads and the roads in general here in the Philippines. So let's air it out. So the question of the day, is the Subaru Legacy a good stance car? I'd say Subarus in general are very nice to stance. You just need to get the right wheel, the right sized wheel, and of course you need to pair it up with some good tires. For this, since it's more of a comfort car than a stance car, we're running pretty thick tires. These are 40 series on a 19-inch wheel. So it's already pretty big. Usually people with 19s, they run 30 series to 35, which is pretty thin. But these are on 40 series tires, so comfort is a must with this car for our client. So we want to give that to him as much as we can. And that's pretty much it for the Subaru Legacy. Let us know what your thoughts are. Do you think that the Subaru Legacy is a good stance car? Do you think it's a good car or a good platform to build with? And what else can you do with a Subaru Legacy besides air suspension? So that's pretty much it. Again, don't forget to like and share this video. Please subscribe to Fitment TV. We are now at 21,000 subscribers. Thank you to every single one of you out there. And don't forget to click on the notification bell icon to stay updated on our catalog videos, our 3-piece highlights, and other videos like our shop updates and many more. So that's pretty much it for this video. So this is me, the host, Julio Neri of Fitment TV, and I'll see you in the next one.